Section 3 of Chris and the Wonderful Lamp. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Christine Rucker, May 25th, 2025, Westford, Massachusetts. Chris and the Wonderful Lamp by Albert Stearns. The moral depravity of the genie becomes painfully apparent. In another instant, a shrill scream in Huldah's voice notified Chris that the genie had reached the kitchen. He dashed to the barn door and heard the girl inquire, "Why, where in the world did you come from?" "From the barn," replied the genie. "Well, what do you want?" "I came to see what you wanted. You rubbed the lamp." "I was trying to clean the old thing." "Well, whenever you rub that lamp, I shall appear. I am the slave of the lamp and of its owner." Chris's heart seemed to stand still as the genie uttered these words. "It's all up now," he murmured. He might have kept it to himself. "I wouldn't have had Huldah know for anything. Well, as she knows the truth, I'll go and get something to eat." He was about to start for the kitchen when the girl said with a ringing laugh, "Quit your fooling, Chris. If you'll take my advice, you'll go back to bed. Your ma may be home by the noon train, and she'll be awful mad if she finds you up." "She ought to be glad to see that I have recovered so rapidly," replied the genie. "But see here," he went on with some warmth, "you don't seem to understand the situation of affairs. I'm not Chris at all. I only look like him. I'm a genie, and your slave as well as that of the lamp." "You're a mighty queer boy, Chris Wagstaff," laughed Huldah. "I never saw you so full of nonsense as you are this morning." "I tell you I'm in sober earnest," almost shouted the genie. "If you don't believe me, just try me. Command me to do anything you please, and I'll do it. Now then." "Well," returned the girl, "if you're so awful anxious to do something for me, suppose you walk down to the store and get me 7 pounds of granulated sugar. I've just found that the box is empty." "Is that all?" asked the genie in a tone of disgust. "Yeah, that's all. But I'll do without the sugar if you want to go back to bed." "I'll get it," said the genie sulkily, and he turned away. Chris drew a long breath of relief. "That was a narrow escape," he said to himself as he watched the genie trudging along the dusty road. "It's lucky for me she told him to walk. If she'd ordered him to fly, he'd have done it, and then the cat would have been out of the bag." He waited until the genie had disappeared. Then he stepped out of the barn and approached the kitchen. "Are you back already?" cried Huldah as her eyes rested on him. "Where's the sugar?" "I haven't got it. I didn't feel like going," replied Chris. "What made you offer, then?" asked the girl sourly. "Do you feel sick?" "I have felt better," said Chris. "I guess I'll go upstairs. I wish you'd get me something to eat while I'm gone. I'll be down again in a few minutes." "You can go to the bottery and help yourself, can't you?" returned Huldah, adding quickly, "Oh, say, Chris, how did you walk on the ceiling? I know it was all a trick, but how did you do it?" "Don't bother me," snapped the boy as he picked up the lamp and started away with it. "Well, you needn't be so short," answered Huldah. "I thought you was moose too good-natured to last this morning. And where are you going with my lamp?" "It's my lamp," replied Chris, "and I'm going to take it up to my room." "Your ma gave it to me." "It wasn't hers to give. What do you want with the old thing anyway?" "I have a use for it." "Well, so have I, and I'm going to keep it." And Chris abruptly left the room. "You mean boy!" shouted Huldah after him, but he did not hear her. He was ascending the stairs 3 steps at a time. He ran into his room and locked the door. Then he gave the lamp a very energetic rub. Instantly the genie appeared before him, still his own exact double, carrying a large paper bag under his arm. It was not without a feeling of satisfaction that Chris observed the expression of annoyance on his face. Well, this is rather sudden, I must confess, said the genie. So you've got possession of the lamp again, have you? Yes, I have, and I mean to hold on to it this time, replied Chris. I sincerely hope you will, said the genie in what was evidently intended to be a conciliatory tone. You harbor no hard feelings against me, I trust. I was only doing my duty. What's in that bundle you are carrying? Asked Chris, ignoring the question. It's the sugar. I was on my way home with it when you summoned me. Throw it out of the window, commanded the boy, and the genie promptly obeyed. Anything else? He then inquired obsequiously. Remember, I have unrivaled facilities for filling orders of all kinds at the shortest notice. Change yourself back into the old man again, directed Chris next. And presto, it was done. The dapper little old gentleman of the previous day stood before him once more. Whenever I call for you again, continued Chris, appear in that shape. Certainly, and now I suppose you want breakfast. You must be very hungry by this time. What shall it be? Will you make your own selection, or will you leave it all to me? And the genie rubbed his hands and smiled affably into his master's face. But Chris was not to be won over so easily. I'll get my breakfast downstairs, he said stiffly, and now you can clear out. I've seen enough of you for the present. Before he finished the sentence, the genie had disappeared. Taking the lamp with him, Chris went down to the buttery and for 10 minutes ate as only a hungry boy can eat. Now I feel something like myself, he mused. I think I shan't have any trouble in holding my own against the genie for the future. When his father and mother returned at noon, they found Chris seated on the porch, so intently engaged in the perusal of the Arabian Nights that he did not see them until they were ascending the steps. Are you back already? He began, but he paused as he observed the unwonted expression of severity on his father's face. We have returned, said Mr. Wagstaff in chilling tones. So it is as expected. You were feigning illness this morning. No, I wasn't, father, cried Chris earnestly. That will do, sir, interrupted his father sternly. After your conduct yesterday, I can believe almost anything of you. What conduct, sir? Stammered Chris, a dreadful presentiment seizing him. I know all, sir, returned Mr. Wagstaff. Your mother and I have just met the principal of the academy. He was amazed to see us out, and no wonder, since you told him yesterday that your mother was ill with typhoid fever, and that I had been thrown from a horse and had broken my leg. Chris had carelessly told the genie to make any excuse he could think of for being late, and the spirit had taken him at his word. I didn't say anything of the sort, he cried. It's all a mistake. Indeed, responded his father. You wish me to believe, then, that Professor Thwacker has told me a deliberate falsehood? What do you claim that you did say? I don't know, poor Chris blurted out, but I'm sure I didn't say that. I know I didn't. That will do, Christopher, said Mr. Wagstaff severely. Come in and get your dinner. I don't want any dinner, sir. Very well, you will attend the afternoon session at the academy. When you return, come to my study. I shall have something to say to you. Oh, Chris, almost sobbed his mother, lingering a moment after Mr. Wagstaff had entered the house. How could you do it? I didn't do anything, cried Chris. It wasn't I at all. Who was it then? It was... Oh, I can't explain now. Without another word, Mrs. Wagstaff sighed heavily and stepped indoors. Half an hour later, the boy started for the academy. In his hand, he carried his school bag, which contained the wonderful lamp, for he had been unwilling to leave it where Huldah might again get possession of it. That was a whopper you told the professor yesterday, whispered Scotty Jones as Chris seated himself at his desk. You didn't make anything by it either, for you're sure to get a thrashing this afternoon. I heard Professor Thwacker talking to old Cypher about it, and I'll tell you, I shouldn't like to be in your boots. Christopher Wagstaff, broke in the sharp, penetrating voice of the principal of the academy. I am at a loss for words adequately to express my opinion of a youth so destitute of self-respect, of honor, as you proved yourself yesterday. I cannot hope that this public reprimand will have any effect on your callous nature, but at the expiration of the afternoon session I shall endeavor to teach you a lesson that you will not soon forget. Remain in your place after the others have gone." Chris did not attempt to say a word in his own defense, but he resolved that he would try to prove his innocence to the professor after school. At the first opportunity he took the lamp from his bag and began examining it in the shelter of his desk lid. "If I wanted to, couldn't I make it warm for the professor?" he mused. "One rub of the old lamp, and I could have him in this academy at the bottom of the Atlantic. But after all, I can't blame him. He doesn't know. I'll try to explain things to him after school without telling him the whole story." At this moment a hand was laid on his shoulder, and looking up with a start he saw Professor Thwacker glowering down at him. In his abstraction he had not been conscious of that gentleman's approach. "What have you got there, Wagstaff?" thundered the principal. "Nothing, sir. That is only an old lamp, Professor Thwacker," stammered Chris. "An old lamp, sir?" stormed the professor. "Give it to me. And what do you mean, Wagstaff, by bringing an old lamp to school?" Chris meekly handed his treasure to the indignant pedagogue. "I shall return it to you before you go home, after we have settled our account," said the professor with a look of awful significance, and he returned to his desk wherein he deposited the lamp. Chris watched him with bated breath, fearing he would accidentally rub it, and thus unconsciously summon the ever-attentive genie, but he did not. The afternoon passed only too quickly. At 3 o'clock school was dismissed, and Chris was left alone with the principal. For some moments Professor Thwacker sat gazing silently at the culprit, and then he said in his deepest tone, "Come here, sir." Chris tremblingly approached the platform. He had resolved to endure the punishment with fortitude, but now that the fateful moment had arrived, his courage seemed to be oozing out of his fingers' ends. "If you can suggest any justification for your remarkable conduct yesterday, if you have any excuse to plead," said the professor, "I am ready to hear you now." "Professor Thwacker," began the boy, "you're mistaken, sir. You're entirely mistaken. It wasn't I that made that excuse yesterday. It was... "Well, sir, who was it then?" demanded the professor with some surprise. "It was quite another person, sir. I don't know his name, but—" "Enough, Wagstaff," interrupted Professor Thwacker, rising. "Your audacity astonishes, amazes me. You ask me to doubt the evidence of my own senses. I will hear no more. Your excellent father has suggested to me that your punishment should be commensurate with the enormity of your offense, and I quite agree with him. It therefore becomes my painful duty to administer to you a chastisement which I trust will prove efficacious." The professor turned to take his rattan from the peg behind his desk, where it always hung when not engaged in active duty. Chris knew that if he was going to escape the threatened punishment, he must act quickly. "Professor," he began in an agitated voice, "you are making a great mistake. Sometime you will know it, though I can't explain it today. But... "But what, sir?" "I'd be very much obliged if you'd let me have that lamp now, sir." "You shall have it before you go."
"But I'd like to hold it while you're flogging me, sir."
Professor Thwacker stared at the boy with an expression in which anger and perplexity were mingled. "Christopher," he said, "I am at a loss to understand your conduct of late. I must have a conference with your father at the first opportunity. Meanwhile, I certainly shall not humor your absurd whims." Again he turned. As he did so, Chris noiselessly opened the desk and possessed himself of the lamp. He rubbed it vigorously, and the genie instantly appeared in the guise of a well-dressed and respectable-looking old man. "I understand," he whispered in Chris's ear. "Leave it all to me. Don't say a word." "Who are you, sir?" demanded the astonished Professor Thwacker, confronting the newcomer. How did you get here?" "My name is Jukes, sir, Pulsifer Jukes, M.D.," replied the genie, ignoring the latter question. "I am a very old friend of the Wagstaff family, and I regret to say I am the bearer of bad news." "Indeed, Dr. Jukes?" said the professor, deeply impressed by the eminently respectable appearance of his visitor. "Yes, sir," sighed the genie. "I am here on a mission that I would gladly have entrusted to another, but I felt it my duty to break the sad tidings to my young friend Christopher with my own lips. My boy," turning to Chris with a wink, "prepare yourself for a terrible shock." "Why, what is the matter, sir?" asked the boy, trying to look alarmed. "Your father's house is on fire, and now, calm yourself, it is feared that one or both of your parents have perished in the flames." "This is awful!" gasped the kindly professor. "It is indeed, sir," returned the genie. "Of course, Christopher must return at once." "Of course, I'll be there in a few minutes." "Very well, Professor. Good afternoon. I am sorry we should have met for the first time on so melancholy an occasion. Come, Christopher, my lad, bear up. Our worst fears may not be realized." Then, linking Chris's arm in his, the genie marched the lad down the aisle and out of the room. "Didn't I do that nicely?" he asked with a laugh when they were outside. "I tell you, it takes me to manage a little affair like that." "Nicely?" repeated Chris in disgust. "Why, you lied like a trooper." "We genii have no souls, you know," said the genie easily. "It's no matter what I say any more than if I were a parrot." "Well, I won't lie, and I don't want anyone to lie for me," said Chris stoutly. "Couldn't you think of any other way than that to get me off?" "I could have thought of 100 ways," replied the genie with an injured look, "but that was the first scheme that came into my head. What is the matter with it, may I ask? You seem pretty hard to suit." "Well, I'm in a worse scrape than ever. The professor will find out the truth in a short time, and then what will become of me?" "Oh, you'll get yourself out of the trouble easily enough," said the genie lightly. "If you meet any difficulty, just send for me again. And now, what do you want me to do?" "I want you to disappear in double quick time," replied Chris almost fiercely. The next instant he was alone. His first act on reaching home was to hide the lamp in an old chest in the garret. This done, he descended to his room, where he lingered as long as he dared. "It's no use putting it off any longer," he murmured at last. "The sooner it's begun, the sooner it will be over." With this reflection he went down to the study, where he found his father and Professor Thwacker, who had evidently just arrived. End of section 3.